here we go. It is Wednesday morning, July 24th, 2024. I probably shouldn't necessarily give the dates on these because I'm posting these a little bit later on, but that's okay. This is a walk and talk, getting ideas rattling around inside the head, outside the head in a way to where they can potentially become useful. And I'm calling this one systems thinking, but it's actually systems acting. And just got a video from my new friend Brian, who's talking about 50 Cent, talking about Robert Greene's 50 Laws of Power, and then just when we get information, writing it down, capturing it until we have like some ownership of it, and we can put it and use it in our use it in our everyday life. And I've been very rigorous in capturing information and capturing data for the last, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 years, ever since I was introduced to Tiago Forte's work, Building a Second Brain. But then you run into another challenge with that information. The next level is taking that and actually starting to separate the signal from the noise, because you get a high, or at least I do, get a high volume of information coming in. And then how do we actually identify what some of the how do we identify how to make that useful for our future selves? So I wanted to, and then like, it's, yeah, how do you make it useful? And then how do you make it communicated to other people so that it can be, used as well? That's the other piece of the challenge. So what I realized, the easiest way for me to do input is walk and talks, right? Especially I'm out walking my dog right now. I guess you call it like habit stacking, from connecting two habits, right? When go for a walk with my dog, that push record and start to put information out there, right? So I think that is, yeah, that's the habit stacking. So it's the easiest way to be able to create, and it is a positive activity because it is, we're always like walking is steps, walking is exercise, walking is getting us out. So there's so many different knock-on effects. Even if this is the worst live stream that I ever create, we still get the benefit of the walking piece of this. How about my dog here for a second? You still get the benefit of the walking piece of the work, even if the live stream isn't great. So now, what else do we get from the live stream is a transaction. Transcriptions become data. They can get summarized, and they're going to get moved into other. They can get summarized, and they can get moved into other pieces of action, right? And then how do we use that to kick off workflows? How do you use that to kick off workflows so results just start to happen, right? And so what we want to do is create something and then have it like flow through systems so it gets used. Create something, and so it either we have to do a little nudging along to get it done, or it just sort of gets done naturally in the background with the stuff that we're working on it, right? And then how do we get the most amount of done with limiting the time that we have behind a computer? And that's the name of the game, right? Limiting the time we have behind a computer, sitting in front of a keyboard, which is typically there's only so much energy that can go into that. Whereas typically, when I do walk and talks, I get done with it and I can go and move to something else pretty quickly. It don't need to necessarily have a recovery from it. Sometimes go too long or talk too long or whatever it is. We don't necessarily need to have a recovery from it. So how do we do work that we can just continue to do in perpetuity? And how do you do work that we can continue to do in perpetuity, and then we can easily transition to something else, and it's not something that we have to recover from the particular work. And I have to manage my energy really well when I'm behind a keyboard, and and then the worst for me are like Zoom calls, because now we're like staring at a screen that's sort of pelting at our senses, and the likelihood that something that forwards a goal and gets done meaningfully on a Zoom call is very low, right? It's, depending on the number of people that you actually have on the call, It's very low to be able to do that, but it's highly, at some point in time, you just see if people have 4 hours of Zoom calls back to back, they're pretty much wiped out on the back end of that, right? And so the extreme of that is going for a walk, right? And then going for a walk, doing the recording, gets to put stuff out there, and it starts to work. So this morning I started with got Otter running in the background, did a little bit of warm up, did a check-in with my coach, which was talking about, system thinking, which kind of inspired the idea for this post. Did a check-in with my health coach, which was a Loom video, got to share that out, got to update my dashboard for that, and then went immediately into this live, all while walking my dog, right? And did a couple of small things before that over text with the, connecting with, connecting with family and do a couple of other pieces, and then did a little bit of work on some of the systems, right? Creating other, creating some other goals that we can start to presence for ourselves. And there's two different things, like, right, how do we keep the systems updated so that they're like visually in front of us and we can work through them? That's number one. And then number two is how do we keep them updated, and how do we keep them visual, right? How do we keep them top of mind to work through and to focus on? And that's like the name of the game. And then how do we start to not break the chain around some of the stuff that we're working on? So example, I have workouts, like I do my steps, 13,500 steps every day. I'm pretty reliable to do it. Some days I might miss for those, but I'm pretty reliable to do it. But we need to do exercise that gets the heart rate up. In addition to that doesn't get, and then also need to do strength training on the back end of that. So that can get captured in a couple of different types of workouts as well on the back end. But there is that can get captured on the back end, but got to start to put those things in. So some are a little bit more natural and more. Sorry, I'm going by a truck here that is that's making a bunch of noise. Some are a little bit more natural. Some are we have to actually work through to actually get them done. So right, and then some require a little bit of accountability to work through and get done. So figuring out which of the habits and what are the best strategies for those habits to be able to move through to execution, and then have them start to become unconscious for us. And the best habits, start to make those unconscious for us and working through. So I'm starting to map out my system. It starts at the top with a walk and talk. It starts with a walk, and then it starts with a talk, and then various ways of being recording, and then how do we flow that information through to something meaningful on the back end. And that's the whole game. And then how to be able to use the transcripts of those to contextualize the information. How to use the transcripts to contextualize the information to have it be meaningful on the back end. So that is really a fun exercise to work through. Really a fun exercise to work through, fun exercise to work through, and an exciting opportunity to What was it saying? Exciting opportunity to create and to be able to build. And the name of the game is to create enough of the systems on the back end that we can just do more of the front end work. And I think the systems are never done because it's fun tweaking the systems. It's always just a little bit risky to invest a little bit more time on the system stuff. And so it's like, where do we want to spend time, and it's creating something that's a little bit better. And I'll give you an example from like this live stream. So I'm walking and talking, there's some wind in the background, the audio isn't necessarily great. I'm working, I'm not struggling to find ideas, but it's a little bit all over the place. Would be a better experience for the people listening to it if it was behind a laptop with a good mic, with some good lighting, and with some good lighting, and then also with a like almost an agenda, I guess, that comes into it. Like, here's some of the things that we're, talking about and speaking on. And I'm going to start to experiment as early as today with typeset, which will take kind of random ideas and transcripts and then put them into slide presentations that we can work through and use. Also can do some Instagram lives on some of those slides and some of the concepts and ideas that come out of that. So actually, I'm really excited about creating that visual on top of, actually you can do that here now that I think about it, creating that visual on top of some of the work that we're talking about and doing. And actually, I can probably recreate that with some Post-its in a little bit, which is something I might try this morning. Create some Post-its and just start to upload those pretty quickly for to have a, I won't call it an agenda, but yeah, but just a rough structure that we can, a rough structure that we can use to outline the stuff that we're working on. So I might take a look at the banners and see what it takes to get those in place and start to, precede those before these sessions so that the sessions can be a little bit more meaningful. All right, I'm going to mess around with that actually a little bit on the back end. I'm going to put an end to this one, so that'll be a fun thought to start to create some visuals that go along with each of these, so you can see the stuff that we're talking about and do some creation based on that. Have an amazing day and speak soon.